Alrighty. So to give some context, there have been just riots pretty much all weekend in downtown LA. And the cause of these, or well, the reason that these riots are taking place is that they're in reaction to uh, ICE really ramping up arrests. Prior to the past, I want to say, couple of weeks, honestly. Daily arrests, and this isn't even deportations. This is daily arrests, which is the high number. Deportations is always lower than arrests because
Right.
there's like the process. But anyways, arrests have been hovering around like 500, 600 a day. So you net that out, that's really not that many deportations in 4 years if that number stays pretty constant. And so the Trump administration has been receiving, a fair bit of criticism from the right, like, hey, we got to pump these numbers up. Even Obama did more. And, I think that's a fair critique. And so they have, in these past couple of weeks, Stephen Miller, he apparently,
Satan
somebody leaked
himself,
to the.
right? Satan himself.
Oh yeah, he's certainly something. But anyways, he apparently had some conversation with Tom Homan. He said, why are we only going after the criminals? Go to the work sites, go to Home Depot, go to the parking lot of Home Depot, and that's where you need to be going. And you know, ostensibly, that's what Tom Homan has started doing, and the numbers have just skyrocketed. Now we've had a couple of days that we've had over 2,500 arrests in a day. So these numbers are incredibly high, and if that remains, if they hit on average more than 2,500 a day, that'll be about 4 million arrests and uh, in 4 years. So that's quite a few. That's not going to equal deportations necessarily. It'll be a fraction of that. I don't know the exact percentage, but those are impressive numbers. But whenever you take action like that, it does get felt on the ground. It's not just statistics on a screen. So, ICE has taken to, doing these like raids in these like major cities. And, LA is the one where these riots have kicked off. And, they're facing quite a bit of resistance. At least, that's what the media will have you believe. From what I'm hearing, these are, it looks pretty bad, op- aesthetically or optically, but uh, apparently these are, relatively small scale and have been mainly confined to downtown LA. It's not like these are like nationwide or anything yet. So, it's been a little crazy in a certain part of a major city, but it hasn't heated up too much yet. But in any case, Trump has used it as a pretext to send the National Guard down there, uh, and to like support
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
LAPD and
whoa, 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 whoa. Trump did not just send the National Guard down there, right? Trump took over the National Guard from the governor, which is supposed to be their commander, right?
oh well, I guess I probably should have mentioned that. I'm probably
It's
speaking.
not it's not like Newsom deployed the fucking National Guard and Trump was like, "Hell yeah, dude." No, that's not sorry, maybe you were about to get there and I just cut you off and I was like, "I can't let that stand." The hell? Like,
Oh well, no, you're fine. I shouldn't have glossed over. It is important that we emphasize how crazy it is because I almost said it almost flippantly, like, "Oh yeah, he sent the National Guard down there." It's actually pretty notable. I have it written down. This is the first time that the president has sent the National Guard down to a state against the governor of that state's wishes. And the last time was in the 60s under LBJ when they were desegregating in Alabama. So, this is without a lot of precedent. In 1992, I believe the National Guard was sent to quell the Rodney King riots, but that was something that the governor of California at the time wanted. So, it wasn't like we were just, stomping on the governor there. And those riots had claimed like 60 lives or something, like some like insane number. Those riots were deadly. I mean, and like $1 billion in total destruction or
in
something. So
1990s money too. In
yeah,
1990s money.
oh yeah, oh yeah. So no telling how much that is today. But all that to say, we're seeing the left finally being activated when they seemed relatively dormant, preceding the election and even kind of after the election. We saw some paltry protests. There were even some in OKC. It was basically just a bunch of boomers with picket signs, like, you know, really basic stuff that didn't really amount to anything. And it felt like the left had been totally demoralized. And I was kind of impressed. I was like, oh, okay. I guess it's kind of over for them. They don't have any energy, but this is certainly the spark, a spark. I think this kind of evokes 2016, 2017 energy. So, my question to you, do you think we're going to see a woke resurgence in the wake of all these deportations?
Absolutely not. I mean, let's not go too far. All right, let's not go too far. I mean, listen, guys, do not buy the propaganda that these protests are going to be anywhere near the level of BLM or the race riots of like Rodney King in the 90s. Like, listen, the LAPD was handling these protests just fucking fine until this was completely contained, right? There was really no energy for this, right? Listen, this is just no, we're not no. This and I don't think this has anything to do with like actually trying to like accomplish like I think what Trump's trying to do here is justify this authoritarian actions, right? Like this has nothing to do with like no. No, we're not going to go back to a woke era. No.
I kind of tend to agree. I mean, uh, I see some potential there. Like maybe if these, I mean, we'll see. Maybe if these protests keep going, maybe the momentum will build. Maybe if the arrests continue, and maybe if like I don't know, like an illegal dies in custody or something, then I could maybe see some real backlash from that. But yeah, I like I said earlier, I mean these protests, while they're certainly unoptical for the left, and they're certainly uh, you know, pretty vulgar, violent displays that kind of look scary. They've been pretty contained. I mean, like you were saying, LAPD basically had a handle on things. I've seen a little bit of looting, but it really was not much, especially compared to like the summer of Floyd in 2020. So, location wise, again, it's all been uh, pretty well contained to downtown LA. So, I think the left is still demoralized. I don't think a large percentage of these rioters or protesters or whatever you want to call them, I don't think they have like a real ideology. I think it's just like illegal immigrants not wanting to be like deported. I don't think these are like left wingers who have like read like Marx or something.
I do think, though, that there is potential for the left here to build momentum, right? Like you said, like these are mostly illegal immigrants that are just trying to not be deported, but and keep in mind this is Trump's number one issue, and as much as it might hurt, these liberals to say it, this is the most favorable thing Trump is doing in his administration is deportations. No matter how ugly they get, no matter how innocent the people look, no matter how young they are, no matter how old they are, right? Like nobody seems to care that they're going to Home Depots, to churches, to schools, to courthouses. Nobody cares, right? Like I may
Oh yeah.
care.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't really think that you care that much if they're going to, work sites and churches and all that to deport illegals, but it seems so far, at least it hasn't manifested that way in the polls yet, and I doubt it will. To be honest with you, I think that most Americans, like that's why Trump got elected, so they're going to stick by him here. But in terms of like building your own base's momentum, I think this has potential. But I don't think this is going to go in a woke direction, right? I think this may just go in like I think there is a populism here in terms of like hey, these immigrants haven't done anything wrong. Like I don't think that's woke. I don't think it'll be nearly as race based. Like even Gavin Newsom, right? You wouldn't say he's like taking a woke direction right now in his opposition, right? Like you would say that he's mostly just trying to be like, hey, these are members of our community. Like, I don't think I've heard him mention once like race talking about this.
It hasn't been as racial as it could be. That is for sure. I mean,
At least not
uh,
yet. I mean, who knows, right?
yeah, not yet at least. I can certainly see it becoming that way, but now that you pointed out, it actually hasn't, the dialogue has not been that racial. It's mainly been just, like legalistic, like uh or well, pseudo legalistic, like nobody is illegal on stolen land, or that's about as woke as I've really seen it get. So
Right.
yeah, okay, yeah, that is kind of an interesting phenomenon now that you mention it. It doesn't have that, as much racial undertones as like 2020 did. So it's amazing the shift that can happen in 5 years.
Well, you got to think too, like the circumstances are a little bit different too. Like I understand most of these illegals are non-white. I do understand that, but that's not where the support for the immigrants doesn't come from the fact that they're non-white. You know what I mean? It comes from the fact that they're just trying to make a living and they're just trying to be Americans and all that. But versus like in 2020, that is explicitly racial. That is an explicitly race-based issue. Hey, we as black people do not like being policed a certain way. We don't like the low-level forces that are being applied upon us discriminately. We don't like any of that shit. Versus like the immigration issue is not really like race based as much as it is from the defense of the immigrants. On the right, I would almost say it's exclusively race based. They just won't say it. They'll say that they're criminals. What they really mean is they're brown.
Yeah, well, I'm starting to notice a shift. Like, now I don't think I was mentioning how like the racial element didn't seem as pronounced. I think it's definitely there in the background, but it's just not being said explicitly as much or much at all. But by the left at least. But I still think it is racial because it's not like it's not like the left was cheering for like these like Afrikaner South Africans when they were coming in. There weren't even like that many of them that came in, like 50 or 60 people, and like the left was just incensed, like up in arms about it.
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay, like even if you don't think that these people should are really fearing for their lives, they have about as good of a claim as any of these, like, Hondurans, Guatemalans, Mexicans for that matter. I mean, their justification is basically the same. They just want to better their circumstances, even if it's like marginal. So, I mean, basically, when you distill it down, it's still about race. I think I don't think a left winger will ever champion like a white immigrant. I think to them like they can't theorize that a white could ever be a victim. I think it's just like outside their realm of like I just don't think they see the world that way. Maybe
What the hell
there
does
would
that
be.
even mean? What does that even mean? They can't see the white as a victim? Like what?
Yeah, I mean, can you think? I mean, even like the Ukrainians, I don't think.
Ah, I was literally about to say the Ukrainians. That's so funny.
Yeah, I mean, those are definitely even within that conflict, even though it's basically white on white. I mean, I would say of the two Slavic peoples, Ukrainians versus Russians, I would say the Ukrainians are probably whiter, but they're certainly not the level of like affection for them, but by left wingers, I think uh, that they give to other groups. I can't give a perfect analogy because I don't want to say like Palestine because what's happening to Palestine is so much worse. But if anything, I see a lot of left wingers that are basically pro Russia, and I know that there's like factions within you know being left wing. There's like tankies, and there's like the more liberal lefties that are more I don't know. They're not like communist like tankies, but yeah, I don't know. I just don't think left wingers seem to have much empathy for whites.
Well, maybe I really don't see your point there. And when Ukraine had their mass migration because of the war, right? I mean, now I will concede that this is not American lefties, but I mean, what are we supposed to do? Wait until Canada undergoes a civil war so that we can take in their, migrating people? Like, I don't understand. You know what I mean? Like, it's when Ukraine was under, war like they are now, and the mass migration happened, they were welcomed with open arms, you know? So I don't really know what you mean, but I guess I can kind of see what you're saying in the sense that like they would be less likely to be open to accepting all these immigrants if they were all white. I just don't know if I buy it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think well, I think it comes from multiple factors. I mean, and honestly, you don't see many like brown countries typically aren't like powerful enough to like actually attack white countries, so there's nothing like in the psychology of leftists, I guess, or
Yeah.
their the priorities of leftists and their anti-white uh, racial ideology.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously this administration doesn't really have that problem, right? So, let me ask you this because I'm just curious, and then you can segue wherever you want to. Do you have a problem with like you personally have a problem with like Stephen Miller giving Tom Homan the green light to go into like churches, go into work sites, courts, you know, schools? Do you have any like moral, qualms with that at all?
I have no moral problem, but I do think it would be unoptical to go into a church. They should probably not do that,
Right, but you're
just
just saying
because.
that for optics, right?
Yeah, yeah, but I have no like. I mean, that's where the people are. That's where you got to go get them. So.
See, I would almost say it's probably not a good idea to do it for courts either. Not for the same optics reason that you're saying, but just for like, you know, the few times illegal's going to go to court, you're telling me that they have to like be looking over their shoulder constantly. If an ICE agent's going to detain them and deport them, you know what's going to happen? They're just going to quit showing up to court. You know, you're telling me the few immigrants who do something right are going to have to be constantly looking over their shoulder, like when they're trying to do it the right way. That just seems like a bad. I'm just saying
Yeah,
maybe we hesitate on that one just for like the incentive structure that it sets up, because then what you're incentivizing is people not to go to court, which most of them I actually don't know if it's most of them, but a fair amount of them don't even show up to court anyway. But you're going to penalize the ones who try to do it the right way and book them that way. Yeah, that just seems like a horrible idea.
yeah, that
Unless
they
it's
need
an
to
extreme
straighten.
case, whether it's a criminal or what, like a murderer or something. But and then follow up question, because you said that you don't have a problem with them if they're, and we've talked about it before. You don't have a problem with them deporting non-criminals, right?
Oh yeah, I have zero problem. I mean, if they were only relegated to deporting criminals, then there would be no deportations. So.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. They there's really not that many criminals, and Tom Homan actually answered that question pretty explicitly. He said, hey, we're are you gonna just deport criminals? And he said, no. Like that's not what we said, you know? Okay, well, do you have a problem with the in LA, the deploying of the National Guard? Do you have any problems with this?
Oh no. In fact, I think the protesters should be. I could see maybe like there's an optics argument against it, but I
An
think they.
optics argument? That's the best you could possibly think of against this is an optics argument?
Oh yeah, I think they should be met with tons of force. I'm talking, the beanbag guns, the tear gas, all the stuff the riot police use.
You don't think LAPD can do that?
I think it's more about sending a message. So let
What's
me
the
go back to
message?
like,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Sorry.
well, it's like again, these riots have been, there's definitely been some destruction of property. Some Waymos have been destroyed. I've seen like a Jeep and then like some, four-door sedan got lit up by some protesters. So there's definitely been some destruction. It's been unruly, but again, LAPD can handle it on their own. Basically, it's been fairly well confined, even if some of the images have been pretty, violent and scary looking. It's more about sending a message and setting the tone. Like if you meet them with overwhelming force, and if you kind of humiliate Gavin Newsom a little, make him look bad. It's like, oh, he can't even control his own state. We had to nationalize the National Guard and, send him down there to figure things out, then I do think it is a good deterrent for any future protests like these. I'm not in favor of these protests. I think they're bad. They're not productive, certainly, and besides like all the property damage and all the pain these people inflict, I'm against their cause in general. So I'm all for just setting the tone. Like if you do this, you will be met with tons of force.